Now, last question, before I get into the next slide. Last minute here for all of you. If your organization could reduce Gen AI implementation cost, what would you do? So call it a holy grail. If you're a Monty Python fan, I know I am. However you want to phrase it, this is the holy grail question. What would you do to reduce Gen AI implementation cost in your organization? Mm-hmm. Comedy's good, especially in day two after dinner. I love it. Keeps the juices going. Outsource, yeah, there's sourcing considerations. That's another area is use cases, yeah. Yeah. So we'll see how interesting. We're getting several different things, which is good, because the answer is we'll go into next. There are 6 key things to simplify. I could not get into Rule 5. I apologize very greatly for that, but I did get to Rule 6 and pretty close. But there's 6 categories we'll go through in the next slide that can get massive benefit for you. And they are touching on these areas. So again, not wrong, because it's a combination. So we'll jump back to the present. Okay, on slide 4. Okay. So these are the actual cost drivers. You see, I mentioned this before earlier, but you can see the kind of cost gain you can get. And yes, obviously the 200x case is extreme. And again, these are all size companies, so 200x can be a small company, but where you don't get a lot of good bargaining power with cloud providers, and you're racking up costs, and you're buying on-demand storage and all that, for your platform, right? So that obviously is going to be probably closer to the use case. But remember, it also includes, and I saw this in the previous slide, you just pick the wrong thing. So you pick the wrong thing, it does not get returns, and then whatever that is, that's just, right? So if you can stop some of that stuff, you have to learn, yeah, but if you're doing that more often than others, that's money back in your pocket. So all that contributes. So strategic alignment's number 1. Pick the use cases that are going to get value. Obviously easier said than done, but pick the ones that are going to get value, and make sure, to as much possible, you get them aligned to your strategic objectives of your organization. What's your top 3 priorities this year, 2 years, whatever, let's just say this year. What's your top 3 priorities? Okay, are you picking a use case that everybody has direct line of sight to say, that is gonna one of these 3 things, yes or no? We're not sure. If it's no, we're not sure, I don't know. Then I'm gonna say I don't know, if you're gonna get benefit out of it. Because you're probably gonna get better benefit out of it if it's gonna tie to strategic use case. You're gonna get the whole organization behind it, and you're gonna get the cream resources, budget, et cetera, to do it right. And the right due diligence and support that you're gonna need for these things. Even if it's one business unit, you're still gonna need support. Customer ops and IT, that's just 2 examples. You're gonna need support. Computational workload. And we saw it in the last question, right? Definitely, absolutely. Huge cost, huge cost. So these are the costs associated with training your models and running them. So figuring out things like, okay, who do I want running this? Meaning, if I'm going to put it out live, do I want to put it to VIP customers or not? How do I do it? Users? All users or not? Maybe it is. Maybe, hey, if you're, let the good times roll. If people are taking this something up and it's bringing in more revenue, that's the second part. Have you accounted for the scaling? And yes, performance and availability. Remember, we're talking about the 3rd leg of the iron triangle, cost. Have you figured out how to do that cost effectively? Ideally, as you're growing, you are getting cheaper. It is going down. Particularly, oftentimes, as you grow and acquire customers, that's also getting more expensive. So if your AI and cloud costs are the same, and you're acquiring customers at more cost, there goes erosion. As you're growing, things are getting worse. So you don't really want to be, and you don't want your deals to be like that. A lot of deals are cut enterprise-wide, and they're usage-based. Use this much. Okay, they can be good, but certain use cases, they might not be enough. So if you know that, you can set up your deal that way. Model size and capabilities. Oh, that's important too because models run on parameters. More parameters, more costly. More compute, more storage, higher cost, higher energy, more sustainability. You get the idea. So you need to pick the right model size that you actually need. We'll get into resource pooling because that's an interesting thing too, but I'll just take this in and of itself. You might want to get, you might want to have a model that, you can grow into, and there's other considerations even in terms of, it doesn't mean you always pick small or whatever. Sometimes you do want to pick larger because you can grow into it. You have to consider that. Model optimization, this is condensing. This is throwing out terms, but quantization, knowledge distillation, all those concepts get into optimization. It's making things smaller and can be done oftentimes with not as much expense to accuracy. In a lot of cases it does, but you weigh that up, right? And obviously you have something that's cheaper and faster, by the way, and faster to run, latency. And you could put that on end devices, putting the data that you can closer to users and customers for good reason, process, even data privacy. If there's customer data there you don't want to retain, it's a great use case. I saw a lot of that at CS in Vegas, a lot of that. Resource pooling. This is actually, if you like, getting synergies out of your models. Large model, multiple use cases. Most LLMs, they can do multiple use cases. They're built for that, right? Pick the right ones. Small models. Machine learning models. I'll say something right now in generalities, right, but important generalities. If you have a machine learning model and you have an LLM that's acting like a machine learning model, what do you think is cheaper? And the answer is machine learning model itself. So how about stitching all that together effectively? Orchestration. Let this model cost effectively get the things you need, have this small model get the things you need, maybe for innovation, whatever, and get this big model to get the things you need and hook it all together. And even if you make a mistake on model size, you can still save yourself a little bit by doing this well. You have to scrap it and, right, you can invest in that. Governance and visibility. So this is the whole thing around when you line it up strategically, setting up the KPIs that you need to do this. I'll let you know something. So 66% of organizations that are putting Gen AI projects out there, right? 66% have no KPIs to be governed against. Now, this is what I mean by that. I'm not saying that there's not a team that doesn't have something. Of course, there's always something. But I mean that everybody can see it. 66% admit, obviously not my number, 60% admit we don't have anything. 31% or so, 33, 31, somewhere there, they don't have the financial ones. So they can't measure it. They may know intrinsically it's not making money risk, but nonetheless they can't really measure it. And that can lead to, perhaps, operating margin issues, as we were talking about. Right? So if you can't measure it,